In international relations, symbols matter. They are more than just images or gestures. They shape perceptions, influence policy, and can even alter the course of history. Borders, in particular, are powerful symbols, representing both the promise of cooperation and the threat of division. Today, two powerful symbols define the Canada-US border: a wall of tariffs from Washington and a $4.8 billion Canadian bridge built to keep commerce flowing. These are not just physical or economic barriers and links. They are statements about the kind of relationship these two nations want to have. The border is a living line, shaped by politics, economics, and the daily lives of millions. This is a relationship at a crossroads, where partnership is tested by a new era of protectionism. Decades of collaboration are now being challenged by shifting priorities and rising tensions. The choices made here will echo for generations, affecting not just governments, but families and businesses on both sides. The stakes are high, affecting everything from grocery prices in Vancouver to auto jobs in Windsor. Every tariff, every new bridge, ripples through supply chains, changing what ends up on store shelves and who gets a paycheck. For many, these decisions are felt in the most personal ways: at the dinner table, in the workplace, and in the uncertainty of tomorrow. President Trump's America First doctrine has triggered aggressive tariffs, while Canada doubles down on open trade. The rhetoric is fierce, and the policies are bold, but the consequences are real. Protests erupt, politicians debate, and the world watches as two allies navigate a turbulent chapter in their shared history. The new bridge is more than infrastructure. It's a declaration that Canada will invest in connection, not division. It stands as a testament to resilience and hope, a physical reminder that bridges can unite where walls divide. It's a bold vision for the future, built on the belief that prosperity is shared, not hoarded. As politicians spar and markets react, ordinary citizens and businesses are caught in the crossfire. Small business owners worry about rising costs, workers fear for their jobs, and families wonder what tomorrow will bring. Their stories are the true measure of these policies, revealing the human cost behind the headlines. At the heart of it all, will North America's future be defined by the bridge or the barrier? The answer will shape not just trade and politics, but the very spirit of a continent built on both competition and cooperation. To grasp today's crisis, you must understand the depth of the Canada-US relationship. It's the world's most integrated trading partnership, built over a century of cooperation. Billions in goods cross the border daily, supporting millions of jobs. Agreements like the Auto Pact and NAFTA created a continental economy, with supply chains so integrated that products cross borders multiple times. Disputes over lumber, dairy, and steel have flared up, but were usually managed diplomatically. The shared benefits of open trade always outweighed the costs of disagreement. That's what makes the current rupture so jarring. The shift began with Trump's renegotiation of NAFTA, introducing volatility and uncertainty. CUSMA was ratified, but tensions lingered, waiting for a new spark. That spark arrived in 2025, setting the stage for today's aggressive trade actions. In early 2025, the Trump administration shattered the long-standing peace that had defined North American trade for decades. The continent, once bound by intricate agreements and mutual economic interests, suddenly found itself at the center of a brewing trade conflict. The move sent shockwaves through boardrooms, factories, and government offices from Ottawa to Mexico City as leaders scrambled to understand the new reality. On February 1st, Washington stunned its neighbors by announcing a sweeping 25% tariff on all Canadian and Mexican imports. The news dominated headlines, with analysts warning of immediate price hikes and supply chain disruptions. In a particularly pointed move, the administration also slapped a targeted 10% tariff on Canadian energy, oil, gas, and electricity, directly challenging one of the most critical pillars of cross-border trade. The official justification was clear: protect U.S. industry and jobs and strengthen border security. But the administration went further, linking these tariffs to broader issues like migration, drug trafficking, and the ongoing fentanyl crisis. Trade policy, once a matter of economics, was now a tool in a much larger political battle. For Canada, the stakes were enormous. As the top supplier of U.S. crude oil, Canadian energy companies suddenly faced a direct threat to their bottom line. Pipelines, refineries, and thousands of jobs hung in the balance, with industry leaders warning of layoffs and lost investment. The shock was immediate. Markets tumbled, Business leaders called emergency meetings, and politicians on both sides of the border scrambled to respond. But the situation was about to escalate even further. In April, the White House delivered another blow, a 25% tariff on all imported vehicles and auto parts. This move struck at the very heart of North American manufacturing, threatening the integrated supply chains that had defined the auto industry for generations. Automakers warned of factory shutdowns, higher prices for consumers, and the loss of thousands of jobs. At the same time, tariffs on Chinese and Vietnamese goods were sharply increased, signaling that the US was prepared for a global trade confrontation. The message was unmistakable. America was willing to challenge not just its neighbors but trading partners around the world. The era of carefully managed trade deals and multilateral negotiations was over. The United States under Trump was now acting unilaterally, setting its own rules and daring others to respond. Allies and rivals alike watched with a mix of alarm and uncertainty. For Canada, the message was clear. It was now in the eye of a tariff storm, facing economic headwinds unlike any seen in a generation. The future of North American trade, and Canada's place within it, had never been more uncertain. After the February tariff threat, a trade war seemed imminent. Last-minute negotiations bought a 30-day reprieve, but at a steep price. Canada agreed to accelerate a $900 million USD border security plan, deploying helicopters, drones, and 10,000 personnel. A new joint US-Canada strike force targeted cross-border crime, and drug cartels were designated as terrorist entities. These moves aimed to address US security concerns and delink trade from security. Mexico made similar commitments. The reprieve was temporary, a pause, not a solution. As the clock ticked down, the threat of tariffs loomed larger than ever. As the temporary truce between the nations expired, tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted into open conflict. The trade war, once a distant threat, now became a harsh reality, with both sides preparing for a prolonged and costly battle. The world watched as the fragile peace unraveled, and the first major blows were struck. In April, the United States imposed a sweeping 25% tariff on imported vehicles and auto parts, a move that sent shockwaves through Canada's auto industry. For decades, the two countries had built cars together, their supply chains deeply intertwined. Now, with a single policy change, the future of thousands of Canadian workers and businesses was suddenly in jeopardy. Nearly 90% of Canadian-made cars are exported to the US. These new tariffs threatened not just jobs but entire communities built around the auto sector. Families who had relied on steady paychecks for generations faced an uncertain future, and local economies braced for the fallout. In response, Canada struck back with $106 billion in counter-tariffs, targeting a wide range of US goods, many chosen for their political sensitivity. The message was clear: Canada would not back down without a fight, and every effort would be made to protect its own industries and workers. Provincial governments joined the effort, pulling American alcohol from liquor store shelves and encouraging citizens to support homegrown businesses. The Buy Canadian movement gained momentum as shoppers made conscious choices to keep their dollars within the country and support their neighbors. On the international stage, Canada filed a formal dispute with the World Trade Organization, arguing that the US tariffs violated established trade law. Legal teams worked around the clock, preparing their case and seeking support from other nations concerned about the growing wave of protectionism. Mexico, too, announced its own set of retaliatory measures, rejecting US claims about cartel influence and making it clear that it would defend its economic interests. The unity that once defined North American trade was quickly unraveling. The North American trading bloc, once a symbol of cooperation and shared prosperity, now appeared fractured. The CUSMA agreement, designed to prevent such disputes, failed to stop the escalation. Old alliances were tested as leaders struggled to find common ground. The battle lines were drawn, not just on paper, but in the hearts and minds of people on both sides of the border. What had started as a policy dispute was now a deeply personal conflict for many. Economic analysts, who had long warned of the dangers of a trade war, watched as their worst fears began to materialize. Markets grew volatile, businesses hesitated to invest, and uncertainty spread through boardrooms and factory floors alike. Both sides braced for impact, knowing that the coming months would test their resilience, their economies, and the very fabric of their relationship. The trade war had truly begun. The trade war sent shockwaves through global markets. Wall Street plunged, the Nasdaq entered a bear market, and tech giants lost trillions in value. The pain quickly spread to ordinary people. Tariffs on auto parts meant new cars would cost thousands more for Americans. Analysts warned the average family could lose $1,250 in disposable income per year. Automakers predicted job losses and supply chain chaos. A CNBC survey showed 69% of CEOs expected a recession. Many planned job cuts. The tariffs, meant to protect, instead fueled fear and economic paralysis. For Canada, the stakes were immense. Auto and energy sectors faced crisis, and retaliatory tariffs would raise prices at home. Both nations now braced for the unpredictable fallout. In the face of crisis, Canada unified. All major political parties backed a strong response, setting aside partisanship for national interest. The $106 billion counter-tariff package was a declaration of defiance, supported by premiers, industry, and the public. A grassroots buy Canadian movement surged, with provinces removing US products from shelves. This unity gave the government a strong mandate in negotiations. Unlike the US, where tariffs divided opinion, in Canada they sparked solidarity. The crisis reinforced national identity and resilience. Canada's quiet strength was now on display for the world. As the trade war escalated, US business leaders broke ranks with the White House. Home Depot's Ken Langone called the tariffs bullshit, and Tesla's Kimball Musk called them a permanent tax on Americans. Wall Street giants like Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink warned of inflation and recession. Their criticism highlighted the gap between political goals and economic reality. The backlash validated Canada's argument. Trade wars hurt everyone, and economic walls harm both sides. Amid the turmoil, Canada's $4.8 billion mega bridge stands as a symbol of hope. While Washington builds walls, Canada builds bridges, literally and figuratively. The project is a bet on the enduring value of trade and cooperation. The crisis has forced Canada to look inward, but also to invest in global connections. The WTO challenge and the bridge show a dual strategy: strengthen at home, stay open to the world. The future remains uncertain, but Canada's resolve is clear. The mega bridge is a promise. Canada will keep building for openness and partnership. In the end, bridges will always be more valuable than barriers.